Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone in today's class for the 6th elementary grade. Our textbook is Weekend 3 and today inshallah we will cover Unit 7, Fun on the Weekend Evaluation, where we're going to review all the lesson we had in this unit. So this will be presented by me, teacher Mazra Harbi, and the sign language by Mr. Salih Al-Ajan. So let's begin. Our first lesson was in that unit was called Finding Out Time on pages 50 and 51. And our goals were to use regular verbs, in statements, and also to use past simple tense to tell about states that happened in the past, and also to build up questions and answers about weekend. So what we did in that lesson is that we did use regular verbs. We talk about things that happened in the past. So the first thing we did is that we started to identify different activities. And during these activities, we highlighted the words that were in the past. Like, for example, this one. What we did is that we listened to each sentence and we did practice it together. For example, I cleaned my room. I cleaned my room. So here we said the word cleaned, something that happened in the past. And why did it happen in the past? Because we added here ed to the verb. And also, we did listen to reactions. We did listen to comments from people when we mention or when we say each of activity. And the first of these comments were, that's boring. That was the first activity or the first comment. Also, the second activity we listened to is, you practiced on the trampoline. Say with me, you practiced on the trampoline. So you practiced, the word practiced here is when you trying to play, trying to do physical things, you practiced on the trampoline. And we did listen to a comment which was, that's great. That's great. That was the comment. Let's listen to the third one. He watched a DVD about sharks. Say with me, he watched a DVD about sharks. So that was the third activity we did practice on that happened in the past. And the comment we hear is, that's scary. That is scary. Also, the fourth one, he kicked the ball for 3 hours. He kicked the ball for 3 hours. And the reaction or the comment we heard is, that's scary. Also, on the fifth one, they played computer games. They played computer games. And the comment we heard is, that's great. That's great. Also, as number 6, Fahad studied for 6 hours. Fahad studied for 6 hours. And this is an activity, and the comment we heard is, that's fantastic. Also, the 7th activity, which is, Ali cooked breakfast. Ali cooked a breakfast. And the comment is, that's great. And finally, Noura stayed home. Noura stayed home. And the comment was, that's boring. That is boring. So here we had read different activities about things that happened in the past, maybe last week or in the last weekend. And what we heard in exchange of these activities, we heard different comments. Some of them are good comments, some of them are not so good comments. So what we're going to do now is that we did highlight these comments from the very good one to the least good. And what we're going to do now is we're going to read this comment and repeat them together. So let's start with the first comment. Let's start with the first one. Number one, practice the comments. That is fantastic. Say with me. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Number two, that's great. That's great. Great. Number three, that's okay. That's okay. Okay. Number four, that's boring. That's boring. Boring. Number five, that's scary. That's scary. Scary. Very good. So these were the 5 comments that we did practice on last time. And we said that you can try this when you sit in a circle like this, and when someone ask you about what did you do on the weekend, and when you hear someone talk about an activity, like for example, I cooked a big breakfast, or someone would say that I kicked a ball, or someone would say that I played video games, then you can say any of these comments that we have practiced on before. So as we can see here, so when you are in a circle with your family members or your friends or your classmate, and someone asks, what did you do over the weekend? And when you have answer like, I cooked big breakfast, then you can have, or you can say a comment like, that's fantastic, or that's great, or that's okay. Very well. Now, the other lesson we had in this unit was called Grammar in Action on pages 52 and 53. And our goals were to decide the past form of verbs, and also to write verbs in past simple correctly, and to talk about weekends using past simple tense. So all what we did in the grammar action is that we learned how to pronounce verbs that happens in the past with the past simple. So, and the first rule we learned is that no matter what the person who would use this verb, we don't make any changes to the verb. So if I'm talking about myself, I, or if I'm talking about you, or if I'm talking about him, he, or her, she, or me and you, we, or them, they, no matter who we are, what do we mean, we don't make any changes to the verb. So we would say, I practiced, you practiced, he practiced, she practiced, we practiced, you practiced, they practiced. Very well. So this is an important thing to learn, that no matter who would do the verb, it's important that we don't make any changes. And after this, we did listen and chant past tense with regular verbs. And what do you mean by regular is that they follow the same rule, which is on each verb we only add ed at the end to talk about the past. So let's now try to chant it again together, and then we'll move on with the rest of the chant. Number 1, practiced, practiced. I practiced my English. Practiced, practiced. I practiced my English. Number 2, watched, watched. You watched a DVD. watched, watched. You watched a DVD. Number 3, cooked, cooked. She cooked breakfast. Cooked, cooked. She cooked breakfast. Kicked, kicked. He kicked a ball. Kicked, kicked. He kicked a ball. Cleaned, cleaned. They cleaned the house. Cleaned, cleaned. They cleaned the house. Stayed, stayed. We stayed at home. Stayed, stayed. We stayed at home. Played, played. You played outside. Played, played. You played outside. Studied, studied. You studied a little. Studied, studied. You studied a little. So, after listening to this chant, we got to know a very important phonics rule, which is that we agreed that sometimes some of these verbs ends with ed, but they may have different sound at the end. For example, for the regular verbs, there are words that ends with the sound of T, and there are words ends with the sound of D. So let's practice them so we can remind ourselves of the differences. So, for ed, say t, t, like practiced, practiced. So practiced, ed is sounds like t, practiced. And watch, watched, watched. Cook, cooked, cooked. Kick, kicked, kicked. Now, these are for the words that ends with the sound of the letter T, like practiced, watched, cooked, and kicked. Now, we do have other words that ends with the sound of D, like for example, in clean, cleaned, cleaned, and play, played, played, and study, studied, studied. So, we did learn that we do have two sounds for words that ends with D. Sounds of the T sound like the word practiced, and also words the D sound like the word cleaned. And also what we did after this, we did play a verb game, where we write and play the verb game. We listen to different sounds of these verbs, and what we do is that we try to find them. And also we said that you can also to have an empty table like this, to have an empty table without these verbs, and then when you listen, you write them down instead of only underlining them. Also, we had the other lesson, which is reading and writing on page 54 and 55. And our goals were to use how much and how many, and also tell the main difference between countable and uncountable noun, and to differentiate between using some and any. So we did listen and to two women talking about how to make a certain food. And we did listen on how, what are the things that they need in order to make this food. So after we listened, we had here some information like how much flour do they need, and we already have answers, 2 cups of flour. And How many tomatoes do they need? They need 4 tomatoes. So after we listen, we did listen and we did circle the new information or the new answers. So we can learn the differences between what we need and between how much and how many. And after this, after listening, what we did is we write 2 sentences with word some, any, and but. And we said that we use some of the sentences that we heard in the listening, like, we have some flowers, but we don't have any oil. And I suggested that you can write or think of any sentences similar to this. You can say, for example, we have tomatoes, but we don't have any orange. So this is an example of how to use you and, but, and any. And also, what we did learn is how to order from restaurant. And we said that you can play this game either to be as a customer and say what you would like, to have a menu like this and say what you like, or you can be as a waiter. And your waiter usually start offering his help by asking this question: what would you like? And after listening to your partner ordering from different types of food, starting with I would like, and then the waiter should say, when he received the order, he should say, sure, just a moment. And you can switch. You can be the customer and your partner can be the waiter as well. And the last lesson we had was called phonics on pages 56 and 57, where our goals were to differentiate between ND and NT sound, and also to learn some new vocabulary and ask for direction. So as we did that in this lesson, we did learn the differences between words that has MD sound and NT sound, like sand and tent. And after this, we did answer this question where we listened to 4 different words and we decided whether this word ends with ND or NT. And after answering this question, what we did is we write down the missing letters. So the first word was hand, ends with ND. The second word was paint, ends with NT. And also stand, ends with ND. And finally plant, ends with NT. And after this, we did listen to a chant and we did circle the words that has ND and NT inside this chant. Like, for example, sand, tent, land, around, hand, and sand as well. And the final thing we did on that unit, which is in the shopping mall, where we said that be an information person and show a partner the right store. So when a partner or someone asks for direction, like, can you help me? You can use phrases like, when the store is closed, you would say, it's here. But when the store is very far, you would say, it's over there. So we learned the differences between here and there. Here and over there. So now we have reached the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.